Hello friends, I'm Dr. Vijay Prakash and today I'll be talking to you about posterior palatal seal. Now, posterior palatal seal, or commonly we refer it to as PPS, is one of the limiting areas in the maxilla. Now, before going in detail about posterior palatal seal, I will advise you to go through my previous video that was on biological considerations of maxilla and mandible. Now, what is posterior palatal seal? Posterior palatal seal is defined as the soft tissue along the junction of hard and soft palate on which pressure within the biological limits of the tissues can be applied by a denture to aid in the retention of the denture. That is the definition of posterior palatal seal. Now, according to Hardy and Kapoor in 1958, they said that retention and stability of a processes is achieved from factors such as adhesion, cohesion, interfacial surface tension. These are the physical factors of retentions which are able to resist vertical dislodging forces. That is, dislodging forces which are perpendicular to the denture base. Now, the factors we have discussed in details of retention, stability and support in a previous denture, the link of which I will provide in the description. You can go through that. But here there is one thing where they say that the horizontal forces and the lateral torquing forces of the maxillary denture that can not be resisted by the factors of retention and stability, but they are resisted by the factors which provide the adequate border. So the peripheral seal is provided by these limiting areas which you see here. So these limiting areas, the peripheral seal you get if you do a good border molding and then you make a final impression, you get a good peripheral seal. Basically, peripheral seal of the maxillary denture is an area which is a contact between the mucosa and the polished peripheral surface of the denture base. That is the custom tray, the denture base which we are making. So once you do a good border molding, so the adequate seal which you get from that is giving you the peripheral seal which helps in resisting the horizontal and lateral torquing forces. So this seal is very important in context to complete dentures, that is the maxillary complete dentures, because it is lying here in the posterior part of the denture. Because if there is any space between this, there will be chances of food lodgement. The patient will not have a good peripheral seal. There will be problems with retention and stability of the processes. So we have to make sure that we understand this very well and practice this so that we don't miss out this very important anatomic landmark and we don't have a problem with stability and retention of our processes. So what is the function of recording posterior palatal seal? Why do you want to record posterior palatal seal? One, to increase retention. Secondly, to prevent any food from getting under the denture. That is, so you don't want any food to get lodged between the denture and the tissues. So that will definitely prevent the lodgement of food. That will be comfortable to the patient. To diminish gagging, that is another function. Some patients have that they are severe gaggers or they have a gagging habit. So if there is overextension of this area, then definitely the patient will not tolerate that. There will be gagging. So another function of posterior palatal seal is to reduce gagging and to make the distal border less conspicuous to the tongue. So if you have a good seal with this, with the mucosa, then it is not troubling the tongue and the tongue gets very much adjusted, because if there is any hindrance with the function of the tongue, there will be problem with the speech and also stability of the processes. Another function is to provide thick distal border which counteracts which compensates basically for the polymerization shrinkage in acrylic resin. So these are all the functions of why we require a posterior palatal seal. Now, what are types of posterior palatal seal? So classification of posterior palatal seal, according to Milne and Young, there are 4 types of posterior palatal seal. First one is the single bead posterior palatal seal. That is, you'll be recording posterior palatal seal, and you'll be giving a single bead type, which is one type which extends through the hamulus, and which will be from the one hamular notch on one side to the hamular notch on the other side. That is the extension of your posterior palatal seal. So first type is single bead posterior palatal seal. Then you have two bead posterior palatal seal. That is, you'll be having a kind of two beaded structure, which will be increasing basically the amount of denture base and also the contact with the tissues. So that is the two bead or double bead posterior palatal seal. Third one is the butterfly shaped posterior palatal seal. The width and depth of butterfly depends on the amount of displacement of the tissues. Like this, which you see in the figure, it is kind of a cupid bow shape, and in which it will depend, the depth and width will depend on how much of tissues are displaceable. That will determine that. And third one, or the fourth type is the butterfly PPS with a bead on the posterior limit of the denture. So it's similar to type 3, but in fourth you have a bead here rather than a simple this kind of posterior palatal seal. You have a deep bead here in the type 4. So this is the classification of posterior palatal seal. Now a good peripheral seal or a good correctly placed posterior palatal seal will actually create how it is going to resist the horizontal or the lateral torquing forces. That is by creating a partial vacuum which is beneath the maxillary denture. So you have a denture here, and with a good recorded posterior palatal seal, you're creating a partial vacuum. So you know that the factors of retention and stability, they are going to resist any vertical dislodging forces. But if you have a lateral force, if there is a lateral or a torquing force, then there is a partial vacuum which is created in this region, which is going to resist the horizontal and tipping forces. So another thing which you will argue is, if there is a partial vacuum, then it is going to be harmful to the tissues. No, because the time duration in which this partial vacuum is created, it's very less. So it is not going to hamper the health of the tissues. Now let us see what are the anatomic considerations. Now posterior palatal seal can be divided into two separate areas on the basis of anatomical boundaries. First one is the post-palatal seal, and the other one is the pterygomaxillary seal. Pterygomaxillary seal is here and post-palatal seal is here. Now, what is post-palatal seal? Post-palatal seal extends medially from one tuberosity to another tuberosity. And pterygomaxillary seal, it extends laterally from one hamular notch to another one, from one hamular notch to another one, and it is 3 to 4 millimeters anterolaterally, approximating the mucogingival junction. And this seal occupies the entire width of the pterygomaxillary notch, that is the hamular notch. That is this. Now let us see what is hamular notch and how will you locate the hamular notch. Take a T-burnisher. T-burnisher would be like this, and just you go from one end, you palpate the residual alveolar ridge, and you move downwards. As you move distally, that is posteriorly, you will have the maxillary tuberosity. Just distal to the maxillary tuberosity, you will find that the instrument is sinking inwards. So that soft tissue is the hamular notch. That is how you are going to locate the hamular notch. Now you are going to move. You're going to always keep the T-burnisher like this. The ball end is towards the medial aspect, that is towards the midline, and from this you're going to move towards the midline and you're going to palpate the tissues. You check the resiliency of the tissues here. So as you move to the center in the midline, you know that the tissues are characterized and you will not feel any kind of resiliency of the tissues. But as you move in between these, you will have more resilient tissues. So you want to record those tissues also. So how you're going to locate this? This is hamellar notch. That dip in this is the hamellar notch. And what is hamellar notch? Hamellar notch is basically consisting of a band of loose connective tissue which lies between the pterygoid hamellus of sphenoid bone and distal portion of the maxillary tuberosity. So the hamellar notch is here, and this is the particular area. So this is the band of connective tissue which is forming the hamellar notch, and it is lying between the pterygoid hamellus of a sphenoid bone and distal portion of the tuberosity. So this is the distal portion of the tuberosity, and this is the hamellus of the sphenoid bone. So that is the location of your hamellar notch. Now posterior palatal seal extends from one hamellar notch to the other hamellar notch on the other side. That is the extension of the posterior palatal seal. Actually, the posterior palatal seal lies between two important parts, that is anterior vibrating line and the posterior vibrating line. So in between this you have this region which you are providing the peripheral seal, that is the posterior palatal seal, which you have to record so that you get a good retentive and stable processes. Now what is anterior vibrating line? Anterior vibrating line is basically an imaginary line which is located at the junction. This is located at the junction of the attached tissues overlying the hard palate. So basically you have the hard palate ending here, and you have the movable tissues of the immediate adjacent to the soft palate. So you have slight movable tissues which are adjacent to the soft palate, that is forming the anterior vibrating line, and is, as you can see here, it is forming a cupid bow. And why this cupid bow is formed? That is because you have an extension of the posterior nasal spine here. That is the reason it is forming this cupid bow shape, and that is how the shape of anterior vibrating line is. One thing very important we have to note here, that anterior vibrating line is always on the soft palate. Okay. Secondly, how do you record the anterior vibrating line? So the methods to locate anterior vibrating line, you have two methods. One method is the Valsalva maneuver, and the second method is the visualization method. Now Valsalva maneuver method is when you close both the nostrils of the patient, and you close the nostrils of the patient and ask the patient to blow through your nose. So once he is applying that, there will be movement in this area, and that will give you the location of the anterior vibrating line. Another method is your visualization method. Now in this method you are going to visualize this area and ask the patient to say ah in short vigorous burst. So you are going to ask the patient to say ha 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 like this in a short vigorous burst, and that will give you an area where there will be movement which you see, and that is where your anterior vibrating line is. I will recommend you to watch my video where I have shown you the wax Trine of complete dentures. In that I have shown you clinically how I have recorded this. So you can go through that video. That will be helpful to you to understand how to record posterior palatal seal. I will provide the link in my description. Now next part is the posterior vibrating line. Now what is posterior vibrating line? Posterior vibrating line is basically an imaginary line at the junction of the aponeurosis of the tensor veli palatine muscle and the muscular portion of the soft palate. So again, this is also located in the entirely in the soft palate as the anterior vibrating line, but this is at the junction of basically made with the aponeurosis of tensor veli palatine muscle and the muscular portion of the soft palate. So it represents the demarcation between the part of the soft palate that has limited or shallow movement during function and remainder of the soft palate that is markedly displaced during the functional movement. So from here onwards, from this line onwards, there will be a marked displacement of the tissues. So your denture extension should not go beyond this, because if it goes beyond this, then your denture is overextended and you will not get proper stability and retention of your prosthesis. And how do you record this? It can be visualized by asking the patient to say ah in short vigorous burst, but here it is same as the anterior vibrating line, but here it is in a normal unexaggerated fashion. You don't have to say to make very vigorous movements, vigorous way, but you have to ask the patient to say in a normal unexaggerated fashion, like this. That way you can visualize the posterior vibrating line. Another thing to note here is some authors take fovea palatini as the guideline to locate the posterior palatal seal, but it is not that reliable because in some of the patients you will not find posterior palatal fovea palatini. So they say that the anterior vibrating line lies 1.3 mm anterior to the fovea palatini lies 1.3 millimeters anterior to the anterior vibrating line, that is here. But in some patients you will not find only the fovea palatini. And what is fovea palatini? Fovea palatini is basically the openings where the palatal mucosal glands they drain. So it is an important structure, but you will not be able to locate in all the patients. So it is definitely not a reliable anatomic landmark to which you can relate or record your posterior palatal seal. Next, the important part which we have to know here is the classification of the soft palate. Soft palate is classified on the basis of angle that the soft palate makes with the hard palate. So you have the hard palate here, and the angle which the soft palate makes is giving you the classification of the soft palate. Now, more acuter the angle, like here, this angle is more acute than this, the more the muscular activity which is required to establish the viliopharyngeal closure, and of course, and that is going to compromise your retention and stability of the prosthesis. Now, what is class 1? Class 1 indicates the type of soft palate that is rather horizontal as it extends posteriorly, and it provides you so much of space, if you can see here. So this is class 1. It makes an angle say around 70 degrees, and it is the most favorable configuration. So if you have a class 1 type of soft palate, that means it is the most favorable, and it will give you a better result, better retention and better stability of the prosthesis. Next is class 2. Class 2 indicates the palatal contours which lie between the class 1 and class 3, and they make an angle of around 45 degrees. So this is kind of between the class 1 and class 3. And class 3 is the most acute palatal form which you see in relation to the hard palate, and this is in this type of soft palate you will not get an appropriate retention and stability of the prosthesis. And class 3 type of soft palate is seen in a high V-shaped palate. Sometimes you will find a situation, clinical situation, where the patient is having a high V-shaped palate. So you can be sure in those patients that you are having class 3 type of soft palate, and there will be a compromise with the retention and stability of the prosthesis. Next, we move on to the methods of recording the soft palate. So before we go to the techniques of recording the posterior palatal seal, we should know when we should record posterior palatal seal, at what step we should record this. Now, we should record posterior palatal seal in the very first step, that is when we are making the primary impression. Now, what is the rationale behind recording this at that time? Because when we are placing when we are recording the posterior palatal seal in the primary impression, we transfer that the same on the primary cast, and on the primary cast we are making the custom impression trays. So when we are making the custom tray, the rationale for placement of the posterior palatal seal in this is to establish a positive contact posteriorly. One, you will not have the material rolling out from here. and to prevent any final impression material from sliding down into the pharynx. That is very important to serve, that is when we are making the final impression. So when we are doing the border molding, you know the extent of your denture. It should not extend beyond this, and also it serves as a guide for positioning the impression trays to create slight displacement of the soft palate and to determine if there is adequate retention and seal of the potential denture border is present or not. So this is very important that you record the posterior palatal seal in the first step itself. Now this is a schematic diagram which you see here, which will give you a fair enough idea how things are. So you have the maxillary tuberosity. Just distal to the tuberosity, you have the hamellar notch, that is the loose connective tissue which I was talking about, and distal to that or laterally to that, you have the pterygoid hamellus of the sphenoid bone, which I showed you in the bone replica also, 3D model. So next, let us talk about what are the techniques for recording the posterior palatal seal. So there are three methods of recording posterior palatal seal. One is the conventional approach, second one is the flute wax technique, and third one is arbitrary scraping of the master cast. Of course, in the first technique, that is the conventional approach, how do we record it? I had already explained to you. You can, if you want to see this clinically, you can go through the video which I have recorded on Vextrine. I had already mentioned that. I'll be putting the link into the description. So conventional method, how do you do that? You will take a T-burnisher, you will go along the residual alveolar ridge, and you're going to palpate this with the help of this T-burnisher, the ball side towards the midline, and as you move downwards, the loose tissues in which this falls into, it dips into, that is the hamellar notch, and from that hamellar notch you're going to move towards the midline, towards the other side of your other hamellar notch. So that is basically an extension of your posterior palatal seal. How are you going to record this? You're going to take an eosin pencil or a marker, and then you're going to ask the patient. You can use any type of method. You can use a Wahl-Sundmark maneuver method, or you can use a visualization technique, as I had mentioned it before. So you ask the patient to you ask the patient to say ah in short vigorous burst. That will give you the anterior vibrating line. You mark that anterior vibrating line, and then you ask the patient to say ah in unexaggerated fashion. That will give you the posterior vibrating line. You mark that in a custom tray or in your impression. Before making the impression, what you can do, you can mark this with the eosin pencil and transfer this on the cast. Okay, and then what you can do, how you transfer, once you have made the impression, you have marked the eosin pencil, you place this impression material back, the final impression material, and this should be done on an rigid inelastic material like the zinc oxide eugenol impression material or your impression plaster. Although impression plaster we are not using, you should avoid doing that on elastic material, say silicone material or elastomeric impression material, because there is some kind of resiliency in those materials, so you will not be getting an appropriate or proper mark of the posterior palatal seal, and that is the reason you use a rigid inelastic material like zinc oxide eugenol material. You mark that and transfer this onto your cast. So before pouring you have marked this when you have poured this, that same mark will be transferred onto the cast. That is how you do in your at the time of impression. Suppose you have not recorded the posterior palatal seal at the time of impression, you can do that at the time of your bite recording, like when you are recording the jaw relations. At that time also you can do the same. Suppose you have not done that during that time, you can record that during the Vextrine. So whatever stage you are in, you can record the posterior palatal seal at that time, but it is always recommended that you do it in the first step itself, as I told you before also. And you have to add more material. As I told you, as you move towards the midline, the resiliency of the tissues reduces. Here you will find resiliency. Here in the tuberosity region you will not find resiliency, and in the mid-palatal region also you will not find the resiliency. So here at the time of bottom molding you are going to add more material here, and then you are going to record this area, that is the posterior palatal seal. Next method is your fluid wax technique. Now in a fluid wax technique, what we are using, you are using a specialized kind of waxes, and these waxes are they flow at the room temperature, at the mouth temperature. So these special waxes are the Iowa wax or the Correcta wax, in which you are going to apply. The technique is similar as explained to as the conventional method, but here you are going to, in the posterior distal region here on the denture base, you are going to paint this specialized wax here, and then again place it into the patient's mouth and ask the patient to make those sounds like in short vigorous burst and in an unexaggerated manner. That will give you a record of the posterior palatal seal. You have to make proper tongue movements and also various other functional movements in order to have a proper record of this fluid wax. It records the distal border and gives you the proper posterior palatal seal area. Now there are advantages and disadvantages of both these techniques. Now first let us see the advantages of conventional approach. Now in a conventional approach, you will have the trial denture base more retentive when you are recording this in the final impression stage, and that will give a psychological security to the patient. Okay, the processes which I am going to get will be more retentive, and it will not be overextended, and it is not going to hurt me. Thirdly, because of course if your extension of the trial denture base is correct, the patient will not have that gag reflex, and clinician can also determine the retentive quality of the denture if we have recorded with using the conventional approach in the final impression step itself. And also the patient realizes the posterior extent of the denture. Okay, the denture will be of this extent, it will not be going beyond this. So these are the advantages of the conventional approach. The drawback of conventional approach is it is not a physiological technique, because you are transferring this onto the cast, and on the cast you are scraping the cast. So in a conventional approach, once you have transferred the mark onto the cast, you have to scrape the cast using your sharp instrument, and this is around 1 to 1.5 millimeter depth and width, depending on how much is displaceability of the tissues. So with scraping of this cast in the conventional method, what is going to happen in the final denture? So here in the denture you will be having a bead in this, and this bead is going to make a it will be having a positive effect on the mucosa. So that is going to displace the mucosa, and it is going to enhance the stability of the processes. So this is the drawback of this, since it is not a physiological technique. Secondly, there is a chance of overcompression of the tissues, because this bead which you are having here, can overcompress the tissues, and that can relate to inflammation of the tissues, and that will definitely it is unwanted. Now the advantages with fluid wax technique is it is a physiological technique, because you are applying fluid wax. Once you have made the impression, in that you are applying the fluid wax in this posterior region, posterior palatal seal region. You are making the appropriate head and tongue movements, and you are recording the tissues in a physiological acceptable limits. Secondly, there is no chance of over compressing the tissues, and thirdly, the posterior palatal seal is incorporated into the trial denture base itself for added retention, and fourthly, you are avoiding any mechanical scraping of the cast. So these are clear advantages using your fluid wax technique, but the disadvantage using fluid wax technique is it requires more time. It is technique sensitive. You should be well versed with the type of these waxes, the properties of these waxes, and the way you have to use these waxes. So there is definitely difficulty in handling these materials. You require a wax bath, a wax pot in which you will be having a molten wax. You will be taking that with a brush and then applying on the posterior aspect in the posterior palatal seal, and then placing it into the patient's mouth, and then making the appropriate movements, and then that will be recording your posterior palatal seal. Now, third technique is the arbitrary scraping of the master cast. This is the least accurate because here you are not doing anything. You are not recording the tissues. You are not even visualizing the tissue. You are just seeing in the patient's mouth and remembering, okay, the contour is from here to this region, and arbitrarily you are just scraping this cast in the posterior region. So definitely this technique is not advisable. It is kind of a guesswork and it is least accurate. So these are the techniques of recording the posterior palatal seal. Next we come to the troubleshooting. Troubleshooting can be of 4 types. First is under extension. Now under extension means that you are not following the guidelines as we have explained to you, the anatomic and physiologic considerations. So here you are taking say a guideline fovea palatini, and with that guide you are just marking the posterior palatal seal region and you are making the denture. So this will be unreliable, and also your denture would be underextended. So under extension of denture you are going to lose the tissues, the base of the tissues, the extension of the tissues, which you could have used them for retention and stability. So that is the problem with under extension or under recording of your posterior palatal seal. Next is under post damming. Under post damming is when you ask the patient to open the mouth. You are basically asking the patient to open the mouth wide during making the final impressions. So what happens when you are asking the patient to make you are asking the patient to open the jaw wide? Then when you're recording this, when you're making the final impression, the pterygomandibular fold becomes taut, and with this you are going to lose, because see this tissue, you're going to lose this particular extension of where your extension of this posterior palatal seal in the habular notch would be there. So it will be slightly more mesial. So that will result in under post damming. So that is also another problem in your recording of posterior palatal seal. Next type is over post damming. So over post damming is when you are over enthusiastically scraping the cast without realizing how much of displaceability of these tissues are. So if you are deepening this cast when you are scraping the cast, and if you have deepened it too much, then definitely you will be having a bead which will be more thicker, and this bead is going to apply pressure on the tissues, and it is going to have it will result in inflammation, and the patient will not be comfortable. So that is over post damming. Another thing is overextension. So if you have not recorded the tissues, the posterior palatal seal properly, there will be overextension of the denture base because of the overextension. The patient is going to have gag reflex, and also because, as I have told you, beyond this you have more displaceability of the soft palate. So chances of compromise in speech, there will be problem in the speech, and also there will be food lodgement between the denture base and the mucosa. So there will be a food lodgement in this area, there will be gagging of the patient, and also there will be problem with speech. So this is all about the posterior palatal seal. So we come to end of our presentation. Thank you for watching the video.